Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider does.
You know what's funny is we did not plan that.
We didn't. That was good timing. Anyway, welcome to Drawing Conclusions. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jessica. Today we are reviewing Spider-Man, Far From Home.
Yes, it was very far from home. Spider-Man.
Okay. Anyway, this is the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, which was released when?
I don't know.
2 years ago? 3 years ago?
That sounds about right.
Sure. Sometime in the past.
Yeah. In a theater long ago.
Josh, what'd you think of this movie?
I really enjoyed this show. I think I actually liked it better than Homecoming, honestly. I thought it was really good. I like sequels, especially when they do a lot of justice to the characters from the previous endeavor. And
yes.
I think they did that with this movie. I didn't feel like shortchanged with any of the characters I liked from Homecoming. Obviously I'm not going to shortchange Peter Parker Spider-Man, who was played very well, again, by Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And I think he's becoming my favorite of the Spider-Men who've done the character in the past, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I like his take. I like that they've, he's a high school kid. He's a dork.
Right.
He's kind of nerdy, and I just think that's obviously it's not new, but I like his take on the character.
Right. Well, what's interesting is they really captured very well in this show the shift between how he behaves when he's not being Spider-Man, when he's just being Peter Parker, and then when he is being Spider-Man. When he's Peter Parker, he's not as confident, he's not as funny, right? And when he's Spider-Man, it's like he puts on that mask and he can show more of
He can
who
be himself,
he really is. Yeah. Which is really
kind of odd.
Well, but a really interesting commentary on what it's like to be a teenager in particular, right? Teenagers usually are very insecure, trying to figure out who they are, trying to figure out their place in the world and things like that. And, but when he's Spider-Man, he just...
Yeah.
He doesn't worry about necessarily what people are thinking about him. He can just be himself. So.
Yeah, I agree. He is more of himself. He can actually cut loose and do his thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like the consistency from the Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame movies. How he behaves. It makes sense.
Right.
It's that stuff's still very fresh and real for not just him, but for the rest of the population.
They do a good job in this movie of addressing some, not all, of the questions that fans might have had after Endgame in terms of how the world was coping with this, shift back to
everybody coming
back, which that's a spoiler for Endgame if you haven't seen it. Sorry.
If you haven't seen it.
So I thought that they did a good job of addressing that without going too far into it, because it's not supposed to be like, oh, and here's all your questions to answer about Endgame, but it did answer some of those questions. I agree that Tom Holland is excellent as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. I also really like Zendaya as MJ. I think that the way that they wrote that character in this movie franchise is really interesting. It's a different kind of MJ. Right. It's not Mary Jane Watson. It's a different kind of MJ, and she's very interesting. The character is very interesting, and nuanced.
I think so. If you read comics and cartoons, and obviously the other movies, well, at least the first 3 movies with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane is, she's confident. Everybody's into her, and this one portrayed by Zendaya is she's also kind of nerdy and awkward.
Right.
And I think that's
right.
That's
but
a real
they don't do that thing
thing
where they pretend like she's not beautiful, right? Like they don't cast some beautiful girl and pretend she's not beautiful.
Yeah.
Or make it seem like nobody would have any interest in her, despite the fact that she's beautiful. I
know.
Even girls who are a little awkward, if they're really gorgeous, often have guys interested in them. So I like that they didn't do that whole thing where they make it seem like, anyway.
Yeah, they're trying to hide some beautiful person behind glasses or something doofy like that. Oh, look, she's got glasses. She's ugly.
I also really liked seeing more of Happy Hogan in this movie
yes.
and Jon Favreau's portrayal of him. And then there are some other returning characters from other
his
Marvel
classmates.
movies.
Oh yeah, from Marvel films.
That I don't want to give too much away there because that is a spoiler, but that's fun to see. And his best friend, what's his name? Ned. He's great. Yeah.
And Jacob Batalon.
He's great, and the relationship that he develops during this movie is really fun. Adds a fun element to the story.
Makes for some really good laughs.
Yeah.
Very funny scenes.
Yeah, this movie in general was really funny, and the visuals in this movie are awesome.
Yeah, that's some really just off the hook stuff that they do. I mean, I don't want to give away the context and who with and all that stuff, but some really spectacular stuff. I mean, and nowadays that's kind of saying something.
Right. Well, I think that the villain in this show lends itself to that definitely, and to doing some stuff that's kind of trippy, and really leads to some great fight sequences, action sequences in the story, especially in the second half of the movie. So for me, this movie, in terms of how it rates or stacks up against Spider-Man: Homecoming, I would say the first half is inferior to Spider-Man: Homecoming, but the second half is superior to it.
Yeah.
The first half for me was a little slow-ish. There's definitely the feeling of, okay, they're gearing up, they're setting this story up. The stakes don't feel as high throughout the movie in the beginning.
Right.
So for me, that was, not that it was bad, I was still enjoying it, but it just didn't work as well. It wasn't as tight, I felt like, as Spider-Man: Homecoming. But then once they get into the second half of the movie, man, the whole thing just zings after that, and it's pretty phenomenal, actually.
It really goes.
Yeah. So that was my take on it. Do you have any complaints about this movie? Anything that didn't work for you?
I don't think so. I mean, again, with the cast, I really like Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck.
Yeah.
/ Mysterio. He was really good. And I was like, how are they going to pull off this character and, really bring him to life and make him not look like super cheeseball? But I don't know. They keep finding ways to surprise.
Right.
the MCU does. And I think that's this casting and the choices he made in the character role, I think were really great.
Yeah.
It's just really good stuff.
There are two credits scenes. So there's a
the
mid-credits
film,
scene and a very at the very end of the credits a scene. And they're both really important to stay for, I would say. They definitely set up things that are happening in the rest of the universe and definitely seem like they're leading into where Marvel's going to be going after this.
Well, I mean, not only setting up future Marvel stuff, but obviously future things are going to happen with Spider-Man.
Yep. So definitely worth staying for. You should, and in fact, the one at the very end of the credits, in particularly, kind of mind blowing, and will shift your perspective about the movie that you just saw.
Right.
So.
I think of all the post credit scenes. That one might have been that they've done in the Marvel movies. That one might have been the biggest one. I mean, it had a lot of things packed into it.
Yeah. So Josh, what rating would you give Spider-Man: Far From Home?
I think I would give this a 4.
Yeah.
4 web shooters. Pew pew pew. I guess that's the word. The noise.
But you only did 3, so that was confusing.
There you go. Got that? Yeah. 4
out of 5.
4 out of 5. I think this movie's fun, enjoyable. Continues the hot streak that Marvel's had with their movies. Not that that's a reason why. That's why it's good. No, it's a good movie in its own right, and I always like Spider-Man.
Right.
I've enjoyed all of the Spider-Man movies that they've released, and this one's no exception. I love Spider-Man. I think it's a really fun time. Good movies. Go see it.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely recommended. Worth seeing on the big screen for sure, too, because of the visuals.
And I think if you could see it in 3D, you might really enjoy that. I think a lot of the visuals would lend themselves very nicely to the 3D format.
Yeah. All right, so tell us about this picture that you did for our review.
A pencil drawing and watercolor on watercolor paper. So the idea is to do an action sequence like comic books would do, a transition from one spot to another, showing action, that kind of thing. And so painting in the background, it's more faded and looks further away, and then as Spider-Man gets closer to the foreground, it's becoming more and more defined and richer colors and more vibrant. So it's like, kind of a past, just not too, just happened, and then
Right.
happening right now kind of thing.
Right.
So that's the idea behind that, and I always like drawing Spider-Man. It's always a lot of fun.
Well, it's a cool picture, and I always like when you do Spider-Man. I think that you are really good at doing Spider-Man stuff.
Thanks.
All right, so that's it for drawing conclusions. Josh, what should they do now?
Well, if you haven't already, hit that notification bell, as well as subscribe to our channel.
Right.
Share with your friends.
Yep.
Always love that. Sharing is caring. Throw in some comments. I'd like to hear from you and what you thought of the movie, what you might think of my drawings, what you might think of our review, whatever. Just let us know what's going down.
What you had for breakfast this morning? Anything.
I guess if you really want to do that, that's fine. And like this video.
Yep. And then also check us out on Patreon. There you can hear our podcasts. You'll hear our spoiler talk about this movie and other movies on our Drive Home podcast. We've also got some bad movies on there. So anything like that that you might be interested in, you can check out on Patreon.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks.